What's up guys, and welcome to another episode of El Jardín Perdido. Today, we're treating for citrus leaf miners. Alright, so beside me I have my Tangelo, and it's got some pest damage. In a little bit I'll bring you guys in a little closer to see, but basically we've got a pretty bad leaf miner infestation. Being in Houston, Texas, especially since we've been up until today in a little bit of drought, it's been very hot, very dry. That has plants sending an SOS. These hotter months, you know, citrus likes to put off new growth, and that's what these leaf miners like to attach to. Basically, they're just like a little white moth. They come around, but they will lay eggs on your citrus, and then larvae will go through there and start meandering around, eating things, and that causes the leaf to curl. So you're really not getting proper photosynthesis. I haven't had fruit on this yet. This is probably one of the contributors, but what we're gonna do is go through here. We're gonna get rid of some of the really bad stuff. Some of the older growth that's kind of recovered, we'll leave. We'll just kind of like go through and see what really needs to be taken care of. But in taking care of some of that bad growth, it's gonna encourage more growth to come. I'm gonna fertilize the tree to encourage more growth, but I'm also going to mix a formula that I'm going to show you guys on camera to prevent this from happening in the future. So this is really a preventative measure. I should have done this early in spring. This happens all the time. I do have a Satsuma behind me that is not nearly as bad. It's just the top growth that put off a couple shoots that has a little bit of leaf curl, but so certain cultivars do a lot worse with it. I'm going to show you guys real quick up close what this looks like. Okay, so that's the gist, but basically you want to check the bottom of the leaves, the top of the leaves, and this is what's happening here. So as you can see, everything's kind of curly and gnarly. You look a little further down the tree, growth looks a lot healthier. They really don't mess with that, although you can see some previous damage, maybe from last season. Actually, that might actually be a little bit of frost damage. That's what it looks like. Some of this older growth that, you know, kind of bounced back a little bit. I don't want to completely defoliate this tree, but some of this really gnarly stuff, I'm going to go ahead and take these leaves off very carefully, making sure not to damage the actual branches or stems or anything. All right, so yeah, like I said, just anything that I see that's like over the top, pretty bad. And right now I'm going to put them in this cup. I'm going to figure out what to do with them. I might burn them. The thing is, there's larvae in here and they're just going to complete the cycle. So another thing you can do is manually, I've done this in previous years, manually go through and crush each leaf. That's very tedious. You can do that to kind of actively try to keep up with things, but you know, that's probably the most holistic way to do it without using any kind of product. What I'm going to end up using is based on pretty much soap and neem oil. So right now I'm gonna go through and get anything that's really bad, and I'm gonna make that soap mixture, and thereafter I'm gonna spray everything too. And also some of the leaves I leave behind, they're gonna have that mixture on there too. So hopefully if anything hatches out of there, or if anything goes into its next phase of life as a moth or whatever, or if a moth lands on there and lays eggs, it's going to inhibit future growth. So you can prune with just your fingers, but I find that when you do that, you run the risk, you know, if you ever had a hangnail, that can happen with the branches, and I don't like to do that. I don't want to peel anything off. We can also like do a little prune too to encourage growth, not just the leaves, but the actual tree itself. I may top certain parts of it. That'll encourage some more growth as well. So just going through anything that's like super damaged, super curly, I'm probably cutting like 50% of the new growth, which I don't love to do. It's gonna put it back a week or so. It'll put off new growth, and that new growth, I'm gonna make sure I treat it to prevent this from happening to that. Just want to show you this really quick. Look how gnarly that is. There's no green on there. There's nothing happening with that leaf. These smaller ones that just put off growth, I just went ahead and like topped those branches. All right, so we're gonna work with just a couple ingredients here. I had the scissors, of course, to take things off. You're gonna get a spray bottle and you're gonna fill it up with water, or just, I'll show you a little trick in a second here. We're gonna use neem oil, 100%, cold pressed, and just some soap. Any dish soap will do. I'm going to use fertilizer. This is my go-to, IV Organic, awesome stuff. I'll have a link down in the description for that, but that's going to help it bounce back and recover that foliage. Okay, so I told you guys I had a little trick. What I like to do is I just have water bottles. I'll label it later, but I'll have my pre-mixes, but really I just use the squirt, save that for whatever other mixture I need, and then I can just cap this for later, store it inside, somewhere where it won't get damaged depending on what it is. So this solution's really easy. It says roughly 2 tablespoons of neem oil per gallon. So I'm just gonna wing it, and that's probably even more than I need. One air of caution. We're going into the evening now, where I'm gonna be applying this. You don't wanna apply any kind of oil or oil-based anything on your trees when it's high noon or the sun's blazing. At least this will have time to kind of settle. It won't be completely wet and magnify the sun. If you think about like putting tanning oil on or mineral oil when you're out in the sun, it's gonna fry you. So yeah, air of caution on that. And so with the soap, we're just gonna put a little dabble in there. I think it's approximately the same ratio. It's like a tablespoon or 2 per gallon. So that's that. And now we're just going to, right now the sun's kind of going down. One thing you want to make sure that you're doing too is spray on the top and the bottom of your leaves. And I've got some brand new growth on here already that luckily doesn't seem to have been damaged. I'm probably overdoing this, but I just want really good coverage, seeing that it was so bad. And look, now that I'm done, cap it off. I can label citrus leaf miners there, whatever, and I've got it for next time. Shameless plug, I am going to put just a little bit of IV Organics all-purpose fertilizer on there. These guys are awesome. It's one of the only organic anything I put on my plants, and the owner's a really cool guy. I've been working closely with this company for almost as long as I've been a YouTuber. So great company, great products, check it out. And so I probably have like 6 citrus trees with similar problems. This was by far the worst that I wanted to show you guys. Sometimes this issue can just be like minorly and almost cosmetic, but as you guys could see, that was taking about well over a quarter up to a third of my tree here, so something we needed to take care of. Another something I realized after the fact is that wasps are the predators for these. Coincidentally, I have wasps nesting all up in here, but my son, being pretty scared of wasps, that's the entrance of my house. I've taken down any wasp nests that are under our carport. So just so you know, if you do have a wasp nest nearby, you probably won't have this problem. So, you know, that's the thing with permaculture. One problem can solve another one and vice versa, but sometimes you make problems when you solve your own problems too. So in any manner, this seems to work pretty well. I've done it in years past. I just hadn't gotten around to it this year. I'm gonna make a reminder to myself to make sure now that, especially I've clipped things back a little bit, we have a lot of heat, we're gonna be pushing some new growth, especially with applying some fertilizer. So I'm gonna make sure I stay on top of this at least once, maybe twice a week. And also just making sure I do it in the evening and making sure that it's not during high noon. All right guys, well that's gonna do it for today's video. As always, thanks for tuning in. Until next time.